An Oppenheimer family.
The Oppenheimer family went to the ANC, not government.
We have not elected Oppenheimer. We have not elected Stellenbosch yet.
Simply because De Beers is too powerful.
Incumbent on the government, as I said earlier, to create an environment to attract investors.
De Beers, Anglo-American, Tana Capital, Tswalu Kalahari Reserve, Stockdale Street, agriculture, vineyards, mines. Nicky Oppenheimer is worth 9.5 billion US dollars. That makes him the second richest South African on the planet. Elon would be number one, but Elon has decided that he is an American now. Very few families in the world have the pull force or the financial position that the Oppenheimers have in South Africa, which precedes the very important question which should be on your mind, which we have to ask: who are they and what do they want? South Africa is a land of breathtaking landscapes, rich history, and immense natural resources. And when I say immense, I cannot stress it enough. Immense natural resources, which is why this family is important to look at under a microscope. We need to know what drives them, especially in South Africa, where the wealth distribution between the poor and the rich is the most uneven on the entire globe.
Well, we rank as the worst country in the world, our Gini coefficient being 0.63.
Behind the glittering facade that this country presents lie stories of power, wealth, and influence. My goal is to inform the people about the forces which push and pull this nation, be they billionaires or piano artists. Today we dive into one of the most enigmatic and powerful families in the land of South Africa, none other than the Oppenheimers. The story begins with Ernest Oppenheimer, who was born in 1880 in Germany, Friedberg. He was the son to a cigar merchant and his wife. Ernest started his career in London at a diamond brokerage firm before immigrating to Kimberley, South Africa in 1902. Kimberley was the epicenter of this diamond rush happening at the time. With financial backing from famous American financier J.P. Morgan, he soon laid the foundations for what would become a business empire by founding the Anglo-American Corporation in 1917. Sir Ernest Oppenheimer, yes, sir, because at a certain stage he actually got knighted. He would continue to gain power, influence, and most importantly funds. This would eventually lead him to taking control of the world's most influential diamond company, De Beers. This company was acquired by Ernest long after the death of its original founder, who was an imperialist, a businessman, a politician, and a somewhat controversial figure in South Africa. We know him as Cecil Rhodes. Now, Cecil Rhodes was an ambitious man. Let's use the word ambitious. And he had the ambition to create this road, or railway rather, from Cape Town to Cairo in Egypt. So very ambitious man. We'll talk about him on another day though. Ernest strategically acquired mines. He'd go around buying these mines, and he used De Beers to consolidate them and consolidate all of his power. He created this virtual monopoly by controlling not just the mining but the marketing of diamonds globally. Ernest understood the power of a well-managed monopoly and the importance of maintaining the allure and scarcity of diamonds globally. His strategies would set course for De Beers' dominance in the diamond industry for decades to come. This move that he pulled with the monopoly secured the Oppenheimers' place in South African history. As he aged, as most people do, the crown was passed on to none other than his son, Harry Oppenheimer. After Ernest's death in 1957, Harry Oppenheimer took the helm. Harry was born in 1908 and was educated at Oxford and brought a sophisticated and modern approach to the family business. Under his leadership, the Oppenheimer empire expanded further. He led De Beers through some of the most turbulent times in South African history, i.e. apartheid. Some of you will know about that, maybe some of you won't know about that, but it was a shameful time in South African history, but also a very important time in the very same history that we have in our country. It is the cultural context to how we live today. Harry managed to balance the family's business interest with a nuanced approach to the country's complex and ever so evolving politics at the time.
One's got to put this in two ways. I mean, there's my own position as an individual. I've never believed that the government's policies are right, particularly in the racial field.
If anyone tries to tell you that Harry Oppenheimer stood with the apartheid regime in terms of their oppression and mistreatment of the black majority in South Africa, that would be what we call a lie. However, he did profit and benefit from the fact that the system was in place and the structures that the National Party, the leaders of the time, built.
But I also would think it quite wrong, in my capacity as chairman of the Anglo-American Corporation, to use that position in order to try to press the government into views which I believe in, but they don't believe in.
Harry Oppenheimer was rather vocal in his opposition to the notion that a certain class of people, i.e. white people, could be superior to another class of people, i.e. black people, purely based on their skin tone. One of Harry Oppenheimer's most notable virtues was his consistent opposition to apartheid, despite operating in a predominantly conservative and racially segregated society. He used his influence to support more progressive and liberal policies for the time. He was a vocal critic of apartheid, advocating for racial equality and economic reforms. Oppenheimer's political affiliations leaned towards liberalism, which set him apart from many of his contemporaries in South African business and politics. He was a prominent supporter of the Progressive Party, which would later be known as the Progressive Federal Party, which was the main parliamentary opposition to the National Party's apartheid policies. So basically, these guys would be the people in parliament who were somewhat the freedom fighters of the time. The Progressive Party advocated for a non-racial franchise and was the political home of Helen Suzman, who was the sole anti-apartheid voice in parliament for a very, very long time.
All the people in South Africa who care what happens to all the people in South Africa, who care about voteless, defenseless people who are exposed to the bully boys of the Ministry of Police.
Although he opposed their policies, he maintained a somewhat neutral relationship with the National Party. This was to ensure the continued success of his businesses and his business interests. This pragmatic approach led some people to believe that he pretty much assisted and aided the National Party in terms of their oppression in apartheid. This is because Anglo-American and De Beers thrived in that economic climate and, as I've said earlier, profited from the fact that the system was in place. Oppenheimer strengthened De Beers' control over the global diamond market through the Central Selling Organization, which later became known as the Diamond Trading Company. The CSO managed the distribution and pricing of diamonds by controlling supply, thereby maintaining high prices and market stability. One of the most significant contributions to De Beers' success was the marketing genius behind the campaign, "A Diamond is Forever." It's a clever slogan, and it even entered the world of music.
Diamonds are forever.
I think that's one of the things that really captured people, selling diamonds as something more than a stone. This advertising campaign launched in 1947, and it effectively positioned diamonds as the ultimate symbol of love and commitment, significantly boosting diamond sales and making the Oppenheimers way more rich. By creating a strong and emotional cultural association with diamonds, De Beers increased the demand and ensured that diamonds became an essential part of weddings and romance traditions. Harry Oppenheimer also played a crucial role in expanding the Anglo-American Corporation, which his father founded. Anglo-American diversified into various sectors including gold, platinum, coal, and other minerals, reducing the company's reliance on diamonds alone. This diversification helps stabilize and grow the family's wealth, providing multiple revenue streams and reducing the vulnerabilities to fluctuations in the market. What was the expression they used to say? Don't put your eggs in one basket. That's what they did. By leveraging a dominant position in the diamond industry, leveraging marketing to create enduring demand, and expanding into other profitable ventures, Harry Oppenheimer ensured the lasting success and prosperity of De Beers and Anglo-American Corporation. The success would continue on as the torch was passed once again from Harry Oppenheimer to Nicky Oppenheimer. Nicky Oppenheimer was born in 1945, and he stepped into the role with the same determination and vision that characterized his grandfather and his father before him. Nicky studied politics, philosophy, and economics, you know, in case you're looking for a course for when you inherit $1 billion. His education and upbringing prepared him well for the challenges of leading this immense family business. He took over as chairman of De Beers in 1998. Nicky faced a rapidly changing global market when he did, with increasing pressure to modernize De Beers and the company. Under his leadership, De Beers also ventured into retail, opening the first De Beers diamond jewelry stores, which allowed the company to connect more directly with their customer base. This vertical integration was a strategic move. It was a chess move to capture more value in the diamond supply chain. But perhaps one of the most transformative moments came in 2011 when Nicky orchestrated the sale of the Oppenheimer family's 40% stake in De Beers to Anglo-American for $5.1 billion US. This landmark deal ended the Oppenheimers' direct control over the diamond empire that they had built for over a century. So why then does politician and leader of the Economic Freedom Front, or the EFF, Julius Malema, not like the Oppenheimers? Well, according to myvotecounts.org.za, the top 3 funders of the 2024 South African elections were mining billionaire Patrice Motsepe, Australian gambling tycoon Martin Marshall, and of course, the Oppenheimer family. This is where the plot thickens a little bit. The criticism Malema puts forward is based on the fact that I just mentioned. You see, millions of rands are being donated by these individuals and entities to political parties in South Africa. Are we, as the public, to believe that they do not gain any leverage in their business organizations by doing so? I'll let you answer that question because I am an unbiased reporter. But yeah, Malema is often pointed to families like the Oppenheimers as examples of the entrenched economic power structures that he believes should be dismantled in South Africa.
South Africans are going to become more and more wiser, and they've demonstrated during these elections that they cannot be bought. They rejected millions. The Oppenheimers were dishing out money unashamedly. When we say Oppenheimers, we mean all of those people. Oppenheimer is a representative of those multimillionaire families of the Ruperts and the Minels and all of them who have been pumping money to try and manipulate the political landscape in South Africa, and that has successfully failed.
Malema's rhetoric frequently invokes the injustices of the colonial and apartheid eras of South Africa, positioning the Oppenheimers and other rich families as emblematic of those who benefited from these systems at the expense of black South Africans. He believes that they are entrenched within the fabric of South Africa, and he uses a certain term for them:
white monopoly capital.
He refers to them as white monopoly capital. This is a term we're seeing pop up more and more as time goes on, and I will not be surprised if we see it even more in the years to come. Malema was extremely vocal about how he felt about these families, the Oppenheimers, the Ruperts, etc. in this election. And he was also vocal about them, funny enough, when the airport scandal took place. Loy, what is the airport scandal, you ask me? Well, in 2018, it was reported that the Oppenheimer family, through their company Fireblade Aviation, had established a private terminal in OR Tambo International Airport.
The Oppenheimer family went to the ANC, not government, went to Ulutuli House and demanded their own private international airport inside OR Tambo International Airport. They have it, it's called Fireblade. So a family can get its own international airport within an international airport, and that is not considered corruption, because see, South Africa's dominant ideas are white ideas, and it is so easy.
This facility was allegedly set up to cater to high-profile clients, including VIPs, business executives, and even state officials, offering them exclusive and expedited services away from the public eye. That's a big one. This controversy surrounding Fireblade Aviation's private terminal at OR Tambo was used to highlight the issues of elite privilege and to question the fairness and transparency of our government and their decisions. So after this scandal happened, critics were very quick to point out that President Cyril Ramaphosa himself had ties with the Oppenheimer family. Before becoming president, Ramaphosa had significant business dealings with the Oppenheimer family. Ramaphosa served on the board of directors for Anglo American. If you've been paying attention, that's the company that pretty much belongs to the Oppenheimers. It's the Oppenheimer company. This has critics like Malema questioning the validity and the sanctity of this relationship. What is the nature of it, and does it underscore any mutual benefit for these two parties? Again, I do not have the answers, but I would like to hear what you guys think about it in the comments. Now, it is very easy to use information like this to demonize people. However, in a different lens, during the 2020 pandemic, the Oppenheimer family made significant contributions to South Africa's fight against the virus. Nicky Oppenheimer and his son Jonathan established the South African Future Trust, or the SAFT, with a R1 billion donation to support small, medium, and micro-sized enterprises. We call them SMMEs for short. This initiative aimed to provide interest-free loans to help the businesses which were struggling and their employees during the pandemic. Additionally, Mary Oppenheimer and her daughters donated another R1 billion to the COVID-19 Solidarity Fund. This fund is focused on addressing the humanitarian needs such as food, medicine, general care, and gender abuse in South Africa. In total, the Oppenheimer family's contributions in this period totaled to R2 billion, making them one of the largest private donors during the pandemic, which would also make them, by implication, a force that aided a lot of people while we were going through that crisis. Philanthropy and humanitarianism seems to be a built-in feature of this family since the reign of Harry Oppenheimer. Which leads to the somewhat challenging question, one that I do not have an answer for myself. Are these powerful families, individuals, and entities that fund nations and hold meetings with our politicians and control all of our industries, are these people inherently bad? Can we look at them in a black and white view, or do we need to take a more grey view on them? Is what they do as funders of the country and people who back politics, does that make them inherently corrupt, or does it just make them people who want the best for our country? That's a tough question, and I believe it expands beyond just South Africa. That's a world-like question. Anyway, let me know about the question I just posed. This has been Who Are the Oppenheimers? I hope I've given you a better view about who they are. This is Loy, signing off. Peace.